A sincere quest. To know and understand the truth about the Lord Jesus Christ, we must sincerely desire to understand and do God's will. Here's Dr. Gene Getz.
In essence, this principle actually gives us a wonderful promise. And that is, if we really seek with our whole hearts, we'll find the truth. And John is telling us this, and he's illustrating this, and we see this basically in relationship to this next principle. And we're going to go back to the Festival of Shelters, where Jesus eventually did go up to this festival, the Festival of Booths, Festival of Tabernacles or Shelters, and basically this was something that was given way back in Leviticus. So when you come across this particular festival, let me just give you background on that by taking you back to Leviticus 23, verse 42 and following. You are to live in shelters for 7 days. Now remember, this is in the Old Testament. This is back when the children of Israel were actually in the wilderness, wandering. All the native born of Israel must live in shelters or booths or tabernacles, so that your generations may know that I made the Israelites live in shelters when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. In other words, this was a celebration that God-fearing Jews engaged in Jerusalem for 7 days, so their children would understand what God did for them in the wilderness. And God goes on to say, I am the Lord your God. So Moses declared the Lord's appointed times to the Israelites. And so they're still practicing this, God-fearing Jews, in the time of Jesus. And he goes up to this festival. Now notice that what takes place is a lot of murmuring and controversy because of what Jesus said and what he did. And we read about this in verse 10. After his brothers had gone up to the festival, then he also went up, not openly, but secretly. Now, we don't know how much time passed by. If they were going to go from Galilee and Nazareth and go all the way up to Jerusalem, they probably would have allowed days or maybe even a week to make that trip before the event begins. But at some point in time, Jesus goes up about the middle, maybe 4 days into this festival. And notice what happened. The Jews were looking for him at the festival and saying, where is he? Now, they've been after him for a long time. Where is he? And there was a lot of murmuring about him among the crowd. Some were saying, he's a good man. Others were saying, no. On the contrary, he's deceiving the people. So there's this incredible controversy going on, which really bothers, obviously, the religious leaders in Jerusalem. Well, we read on, which is a message, I call this a message of hope. Beginning in verse 14, when the festival was already half over, Jesus went up into the temple and began to teach. And then the Jews were amazed and said, how is this man so learned since he hasn't been trained? Now, keep in mind, Jesus was a carpenter. He was not trained as a rabbi. Rabbis were highly trained. Remember when Saul was an unbeliever, came and studied under Gamaliel and learning the law. They were highly trained, and they recognized Jesus was just a carpenter. And yet, he is teaching these profound truths, making these unbelievable claims. So we read on. Jesus answered them, my teaching isn't mine, but is from the one who sent me. Whoa. He's moving in again to the very reason that John wrote his gospel, to demonstrate that he and the Father are one. Jesus said, if anyone wants to do his will, and let me say, here's the wonderful promise that gives us this principle that we're looking at. If anyone wants to do his will, he will know whether the teaching is from God or whether I am speaking on my own. In other words, he's saying if you really want to know the truth, you can find the truth. This is a sincere quest. And notice in John 8:31-32, then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed him, and there were those who did believe him, if you continue in my word, you really are my disciples. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And that's why I've worded this principle in this way. To know and understand the truth about the Lord Jesus Christ, we must sincerely desire to understand and do God's will. And when we do, God will respond. And here's a question. Why is sincerely desiring to do God's will foundational to discovering the truth about the Lord Jesus Christ, who he is, and why he came? And basically, the answer to that is from Jesus himself. If you sincerely want to know the truth, you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You see, those who experience the multiplying of the bread and the fish, when they came looking for Jesus, they were not sincerely seeking to know the truth. They came because they had materialistic motives. And that's why Jesus addressed them in the way he did. He tried to communicate with those startling statements about the fact that he was the bread of life. They didn't stay around. If they had, they would have revealed that they were sincerely seeking the truth. They would have really taken seriously that sign, that miracle. And that's why Jesus said, you're not here because of the miracle. You don't want to know more about who I am. You're here because you want something to eat. You want me to provide a social system for you here in the Roman Empire that will free you up from the Roman emperors and those who are judging you. And so I'm challenging you with these great truths, these startling statements, to stay around and ask more questions. And you'll find out who I really am. And I believe that's true today. And there are many people who sincerely are seeking the truth. And I think never in the history of our culture or the world's system since the time of Christ have more people actually, seemingly, even in the Islamic world, God is revealing himself through miracles and appearances that we cannot deny. And it's because they're seeking, truly seeking God. And he's responding to their heart's desire to know the truth. Not all of those so-called claims are valid, but there are enough experiences, there are enough valid or enough claims and experiences to demonstrate the reality of this principle. Let me just state it one more time. To know and understand the truth about the Lord Jesus Christ, we must sincerely desire to understand and do God's will.